Hi everyone, this is Bobby from bn-games.com, and today we're going to cover Sega Naomi hardware, arcade hardware. What you're seeing right now is my Sega Naomi 2 inside my initial D3 cabinet. Wanted to go over the Naomi hardware because I've been getting a lot of questions about it recently, and I thought I'd do a real basic overview of the parts. First, we're going to start off with the motherboard. I'm placing a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cartridge on top of the slot where it might go if I wanted to play that particular game. The Sega Naomi allows both cartridge-based games as well as GD-Rom based games, which were disc. The initial D3 game requires disc, which is why that blue unit is socketed into there so it can interface with the GD-Rom separately. About half of the games on the Naomi came out on cartridges and half came out on the GD-Rom. So depending on the game you want to play, you may need a GD-Rom to use it, and this NetDim board that's slotted in there is what allows the main Naomi motherboard to interface with it. Also, you'll note that this Naomi motherboard is navy blue, which means it's a Naomi 2. This unit is really only necessary for a few games, including Initial D. Most of the Naomi motherboards are white, and you don't need this Naomi 2 to play them. On the bottom right, you'll see the Sega Naomi power supply. This powers both the Naomi motherboard as well as the GD-Rom separately. On the bottom left, you'll see another power supply type board. This is actually specific to this particular cabinet. You wouldn't see this in another fighting game cabinet, for example. It will vary depending on the game and cabinet you purchase. With the basic overview of the parts out of the way, I'm going to show you what it takes to change a game here in my Atomus Wave. This is my 2003 Atomus Wave with a tri-sync monitor, which is VGA, and I have the GD-Rom mounted in the back. My father actually is really good with tools and mounted all of this for me in a very nice, neat package. It's actually easier to go this route, and it's safer because the GD-Rom is secured, so whenever I want to change a game, I have to get to the back here, unscrew this panel, and get to the GD-Rom. Today we're taking out Capcom vs. SNK 2 because we're going to be putting Street Fighter 03 Upper in the GD-Rom slot. The reason I'm swapping the games today is that the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection is coming out soon, and I want to compare the arcade versions of the games that I own with the game that's coming out on the PS4 and the Switch. So the first thing I need to do is take this screw off. It's a security screw to make sure that no one steals the game. It's kind of tight, and then I need to twist off the GD-Rom cover, which is actually sometimes very difficult. Sometimes I need a flathead screwdriver to get it off. I just pop the disc out, swap it, and then we're going to move on to step 2. The most difficult and annoying thing about the Naomi GD-Rom games is you have to have the proper security key, as I'm showing here. They're keyed to each game type, and you need to take them out of the NetDim, and in this particular case I have to use a really thin screwdriver and push in this little tab and then pull up at the same time. It is not an easy process, and I always pray that I don't break it. Once the security key is popped out, I will put in the proper key for the game. Remember, if you do not have the proper key for the game, it will not boot. So if I didn't have this key, Street Fighter 03 would not boot. Make sure it's there nice and tight, and now I'm going to stick it in the cabinet and put the proper cable there where I just pointed to. On the left here is the Sega IO. This connects to the JAMA cable built into the cabinet. I wish I could show you a better picture of this, but this is required to get video and controls to work with the system. It's currently under the Naomi motherboard, and I need to get the game out so I can stick the NetDim board in there as well. As you can see, it is a white Naomi motherboard because this is a Naomi 1, and we're going to put the NetDim board in there after I've connected the cable. I've turned the exposure up here a little bit, hoping you can see what it looks like with it connected and plugged in. As with all arcade hardware, I had to fiddle with it a little bit, plug it in a few times just like a Super Nintendo cartridge, but look at that, we're now loading. This will load and take a while depending on the game. It does take some time, but once you have the game loaded, it will reboot itself, and voila! Your game will load and show on the screen if everything is plugged in correctly and securely. The Sega Naomi is my favorite arcade hardware to date. It has most of my favorite arcade games, and just Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Capcom vs. SNK 2, Power Stone 1 and 2, Initial D, just to name a few. It's a very versatile system. It has its quirks, and the hardware can fail in some cases. If you've been keeping with the channel, I've had a NetDim die. The GD-Roms, they're not exactly reliable, and in the future I'd like to do what's called a NetDim boot, which would allow me to plug ROMs into the motherboard directly. Overall though, it's a very good system. If you own an arcade machine and like fighting games, mostly fighting games, it's well worth a look. It is getting more expensive over time, but what isn't in the retro world? A good system like this with a GD-ROM, a motherboard, a NetDim, a power supply, all, everything included, is going to run you $500-600 depending if it comes with a game or not, so keep that in mind. As I said, I'm going to be doing a video comparing Street Fighter 03 and Street Fighter Third Strike here to the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4 versions of the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. Please come back for that. I'm going to probably get the Switch version, put it up next to the arcade machines, and try to do a comparison, so see what that's like. I hope this was useful for you if you're looking to buy a Sega Naomi, or if you were just curious what some of your favorite games ran on in the arcades. In fact, if you can't find a full system to buy by itself, you can always buy a arcade cabinet that already has one, like Capcom vs. SNK, and get the full system from that. That's another way to save some money if you buy a cab and just rip it out, maybe if you have a candy cab or something. Just an idea. Anyway, if you have any questions, put them below. Arcade purists, please do not crucify me. Like I said, this is a basic overview. If you liked the video, please subscribe, share the whole bit, and that'll be all for today. Please come back for that upcoming video for both Street Fighters and the Anniversary Collection. Thanks for watching.